And let us now play Rihanna's publicist, Jonathan Hay. Apologies. God bless.
tidbit after she was
Before we get into the whole Rihanna Jay Z Diddy thing, you guys know I have to ask. Tell us a little bit about Whitney. What were your impressions of Whitney?
she was amazing. So I like stayed in her guest house. She was in
Oh,
Alpharetta,
really?
Georgia. She was in Alpharetta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and she was just like so real. Like we would like chain smoke cigarettes, we would just talk, and she didn't want to be famous, and she would just give you like tidbit after just drop jewels constantly. But when she would walk around, just like in her kitchen, she had this gigantic kitchen and table. I'd sit at the table and like have like my laptop set up, and she would sing to herself. It was just
Okay.
like I wish time could stop to be able to witness that as like a fan, and I would just act like it was nothing. But inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, Whitney Houston is singing in the kitchen right now. Mom, I've made it. I've made it. I've done it.
I can
So,
imagine that's surreal. What were your impressions of Bobby and Whitney's relationship? Was he the big bad wolf? Were they in love? Like, what was your impressions? You were there from the
nah,
inside.
she's a big bad wolf. She's a bad woman. You can't mess with her.
Mm.
She's no one's gonna be controlling and submissive. She's not gonna be submissive to anyone. Bobby was submissive to her. She
Was
ran
he?
Bobby. She ran Bobby. Yeah. She's a bad woman, like
When
in a
you
good
say
way,
she,
obviously.
no,
Like
definitely. When you
she
say she
is
ran,
all that. You know.
okay. So when you say that, like she ran Bobby, do you think Bobby was desperately in love with her? Because a lot of times
Of
people,
course.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and they were toxic, they were codependent, but they were in love, and
Hmm.
that they had each other, and that was it. It was like sweet. It was like gross kind of, but like sweet. And like as like a those people who are always like making out in front of you, corny would fight in front of you.
All right. I think it's working a little bit better now. Yeah, I know. I know. I just noticed it was doing that. It kept having like the loud. It had like a loud feedback in it, and I was like, "Why is it doing that all of a sudden?" So I guess something happened. Can y'all hear me now though? Like I changed the audio tech order. This I might be a little bit lower, but I did change it because something was happening with the mic just now. Hold on. All right. Funny how YouTube want to do this shit right when Jonathan Hay comes on, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, I'm gonna keep playing this until.
Mm.
Argue. It was like that. But at the same like and personal, it
Hold
was
on, I got
great
you.
for her because she was happy, right? But
Yeah.
all the business people, like her publicist, it was like Nancy Seltzer, and I was like working for her father. Everybody in the industry is like, she needs to work, she needs to sing, she needs to do blah 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 blah. So I would always try to like do my best to push her, but I couldn't push her out, and plus I was too starstruck to like do anything. So I would just
Yeah.
agree with her, and she liked it. We would just chill. We would just chill. Like she was the weirdest job in the world because like as a publicist, your job is to get press. As a publicist, my job was to make sure she got none because she was getting such bad press.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
she had this larger than life star power. Like you said, you couldn't push her around. You would just be like, okay, Whitney,
No.
whatever you want. And your job was to make sure she had no press. So where do you think the rumors came or this image that Bobby Brown was like taking advantage of her and led her astray and all this stuff? Where do you think these rumors came from?
Well, because she had to deal with a career that was declining. It happens to everybody. And her
Hmm.
voice started to get frail, and
Hmm.
she wasn't as powerful because she
And again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about Whitney pretty much had to keep touring until she was done. It wasn't like a thing to where she was allowed to stop touring and stop being a musician. Clive Davis literally had her on that same slave shit that he's had all of his artists on, pretty much. That's what Jonathan's getting at right now. I know I probably sound a little bit farther away because like I said, the mic is just funny how this shit does it right when I do Jonathan Hay, but hey.
wasn't, working out like her voice. She wasn't like taking it serious. Like she made it, she was done. She just wanted to
Hmm.
chill. She wanted to have her life. She felt like she gave all her life, and now she wanted the rest of her life for herself, and she deserved that. So
Hmm.
people would force her to go on tour, which she didn't want to do. People would force her to do things, and she would do it, and it would get bad results. And then there was the drugs, and she would be in places high, and
Hmm.
she was getting in trouble for drugs, and so
It's interesting you say that. So that TV show, did you ever watch the reality show Being Bobby?
yeah,
Yeah, do you think that was pretty much spot on with their relationship, the way they actually did seem like?
yeah, for sure, for
So
sure.
it's interesting you say that. It's almost like from your point of view again, and this is from what you've seen and heard, from your point of view, it's almost like the pressures of having to constantly be a commodity and perform and do things she didn't want to do played more role in her turning to substances than her relationship with Bobby Brown.
Absolutely. Like people would
Yeah.
always say that it was her that got Bobby into drugs. It wasn't the other way around, because he had like the bad boy thing from,
Mhm.
he was marketed that way with My Prerogative, and he
Mhm.
was marketed that way with, being that guy. But he was a soft R&B cat, from New Edition.
Yeah.
She's rough, Jersey girl. She's tough. I love Whitney. It's
Well, tell
sad.
me what you say, like Jersey girl, because describing to people that's not from Jersey, because Jersey women are some of the most lovable women. You want they will be there with you through thick and thin. If you need a ride home, if you need to be picked up, and if you need somebody to ride shotgun
Right.
and
They
help
will.
you.
They will take you home, but they'll
Okay, so I know my mic was cut off before. What I was actually saying was a lot of people thought that it was Bobby that turned Whitney on to the drugs when it was actually the other way around. Bobby was living a wild life, yeah, through the camera, with, like he just said, with My Prerogative and everything. But Whitney was already on that shit. So it wasn't like Bobby put her on to the drugs, nothing like that. Whitney was already doing that shit. They showed that in the real documentary. I believe it was VH1 that showed that one, where you saw pretty much at the beginning of the fucking movie, you see her at the head of the table, getting the line right. Bobby wasn't on that shit yet.
also be ready to pull that strap out too. They're out of their purse. Jersey women are
Mm,
tough. New York, like I'm in Florida now, but I live in Brooklyn.
okay,
So it's like, you know, so shout out to
gotcha.
Brooklyn.
S- Shout out to Brooklyn. Okay, so you worked with Whitney Houston, you cut your teeth. And again, that's a very challenging thing. Like for the first time in your life, they're like, we don't want any
Correct.
press. We don't want anybody talking about her. We don't want to see one bad thing. We just want people to think that she's working with her head down. How did you roll into working with Rihanna?
So it's like Whitney was going through it. We were missing shows. The drugs have became a problem,
Hmm.
and it was just becoming a nightmare. Her and her father had a lawsuit. They were suing each other. It was just really, really nasty. And he had diabetes, and he was really, really sick. And there were some forces that were, working against both of them, which wasn't fair. It was really sad to see, but um,
What do you think?
anyways, so after
What do you think those
after he
forces
after
were?
go ahead,
I'm sorry. What do you think those
just
forces
money.
were that were? Okay.
money,
Okay.
greed,
Mm,
because John, her father had a way with her. Everybody wanted her to work, but she had those outside distractions, and they weren't Bobby Brown. He was her
mhm,
biggest cheerleader. He wanted her to do well. The more relevant she was, the more relevant he was. He also still wanted to have a career. So the narrative about Bobby Brown being bad for Whitney Houston is just
mhm.
not facts. He loved them.
Okay.
He loved the woman for sure.
Well, you know what? I take you at your word because they did have that bond and you were there to actually see it. And again, this gets into how, from the outside looking in, we see something completely different. They wanted
Right,
to
right,
portray it.
right. And she was she wasn't iconic like she is now. Like when before she passed away, she was a joke. They were making fun of her. She was constantly in the tabloids. It was like it wasn't a good thing. Like I said, we kept losing shows. The drugs are
Mhm,
spiraling out of control. She was being seen in public looking bad for the Michael Jackson show. She was very, very skinny, right?
mhm.
So like before she passed away, she was a joke. Record sales were tanking. We were losing tours. Wasn't a good thing. So if I was like, I worked for Whitney Houston then, it was kind of like, oh, okay, she's a has-been.
Notice how he said that though. She's losing tours, losing money. They pretty much sucked Whitney dry. I'm talking about Clive Davis. Clive Davis pretty much ran her ragged until she had nothing left, literally. Pretty much she was in debt and she was only on tour to try to pay off her debt. So think about that, right? Imagine you only on tour because you excuse me, I got the hiccups. You only on tour because you have to pay off your debts of money that you owe, but you can't get Clive Davis, who you've made millions of dollars to pay off those debts. Think about that. Clive's only suggestion is keep performing more. His only suggestion is you keep performing more, or come to this banquet and perform and look like a drunk hot mess. Rest in peace, Whitney.
She's a
Yeah.
druggie. Now, then when she passed, she's iconic again, and she gets
Mhm.
her flowers like she should when she didn't get them when she was alive.
She wasn't going to because that was the whole money play. Make it look like one thing when she passes, but then you give her the flowers afterwards, make her this iconic superstar in her passing. That's the money play of the life insurance policies. They pretty much build up your catalog, and when you pass, they sell that same catalog while you're no longer here. That same catalog gets sold off while you're no longer here anymore, and someone else is making bank off it, not your estate. And like in some cases, it, especially not in Whitney's case, you know. Yeah, Bobby is you would say would be in that case Bobby would be the person getting all the proceeds, right? But then I also have to think about what happened with Bobby Christina. So that tells me a lot right there on how that family play.
Which is sad.
Definitely. It is sad. That is the whole thing. People give you your flowers when they lay them, when you're laid to rest. And oddly enough, I was thinking about this when we were chatting earlier. Whitney Houston actually, she was before her time. Her personality, her wit, her this, her that. She would have been, I think, a megastar on social media. What do you think about that?
For sure, because she could have just sang. No
Hmm.
music, a cappella, just writing her phone and over.
Yeah.
She was that good. She's got one of the best voices in music history.
Yeah, but I found her so witty, so intelligent, so razor sharp. I
Yes.
really think she could have blown up, just even reactions, like, she would have been the whole hometown
Yes.
favorite.
That's the New York, that's the New Jersey thing you're talking about. Witty,
Yeah.
fast, like, you know,
Yeah. Have you in stitches,
honest,
definitely.
grit. Yeah, yeah, grit, funny, gives no Fs.
Yes.
I ain't trying to die,
Yes,
my nigga.
yes, yes.
I ain't trying to die, my nigga. I ain't gonna hold my breath. I ain't gonna kill myself now. Let me get into the Rihanna part that he's about to get you though.
Absolutely
Okay.
did.
So then when did they get tight? Because I do remember, and we'll get in, we'll slowly unfold this, but I do remember at a certain point, it sounds like what you're saying is in the beginning, she was just an unsigned artist. Once upon the replay came out and people started seeing the reaction, then everybody wanted to take ownership of finding her, discovering her, and her origin story.
Correct. So she had a distribution deal through her producers who were signed to Def
Okay.
Jam, right? She wasn't
Mhm.
directly through Def Jam,
Okay.
but everybody believed in her. It's like, you have these like signed with the company that has distribution through Def Jam. Jay-Z just came in, so he gets it kind of by luck, you know? And then obviously when she blows up, then she becomes the flagship artist of Def Jam after Music of the Sun, and then maybe Andre Harrell had that meaning because she's she probably was like, if I'm going to sign for a longer extension deal, you need to pay me that money because no money at first.
Okay.
My
I
PR
mean,
budget was like $200.
oh, really? Okay, so when you say she was unknown and not on anyone's radar,
A
it was
PR
like,
budget of
yeah,
$200. That just sounds absurd. A PR budget of $200. I mean, yeah, it's an up and coming artist, yeah, but at the same time, that's just pennies to the dollar. That's just buku that you've been getting paid that little bit amount. That's why I wanted to play this interview because he gets a little bit more detailed into what's going on back then. So yes, there was a I'm not gonna say a label battle or like a bid for Rihanna, but it was more of a thing where everybody wanted to lay claim to where she actually was discovered and who actually found her. So Jay, of course, now comes on the scene saying that he discovered her with Def Jam. That's the story that we were even hearing with Bling.
$200.
yeah,
It was like
200.
anybody else, I'd be like that. Anybody else, and that's 2005. I don't know what the price is nowadays, but anybody else like offer me $200, like, nah,
Yeah, a
like
lot of work.
that's not. Yeah, but she had something, right? And then once we got it to stick, obviously more money started to come through.
All right, so when you talk about getting it to stick, the whole thing, and you guys, we're walking this through because you got to know the past so you can kind of understand the present, right? Walk us through
Correct.
um the whole thing with Rihanna trying to get MTV to run features on her. Again, she was back then, she was like nobody even knew who Rihanna was. Okay, this is
Correct.
before even Ponder Replay was really had become like that song. So walk us through the
Right.
thing because there was something where you felt, well, people felt like, not necessarily you, but just talking to people in the industry. This goes into the point of your observation of Jay-Z in the very beginning wasn't really supporting Rihanna's career like you would expect him to when he tried to take credit.
He was not right. But and to just be like completely objective and take my feelings
Mhm.
out, he was. That's what he's supposed to do because he just took on Def Jam. He was trying to play all labels the attention. We wanted all the attention on us. Obviously, that's all artists are in production. Like only pay attention to us. We're the best. Like forget all those
Yeah.
other people. But he had a relationship with her. She would go see him with her family. She would go see him with the producers. She would try to talk to him. You know, um,
So in the very beginning, Rihanna would use Jay, but for you literally hearing that Jay would go around the family and all that, it would let you know that the relationship was a lot more tighter than what was on the surface. It was it was way more than just, oh, she's my artist. Let me just learn who she is and follow her around type shit. It was more of a thing where a lot of people would say this was grooming back then because of how young she was. Rihanna was only about 16, 17 at the time. Jonathan talked about that when we was doing the interview with Jaguar Wright. She was only about 16, 17 when Upon the Replay came out. So for Jay to just be around her like that as much, kind of put a red flag on things.
she's naturally she was naturally, good looking, so she probably naturally finessed him in a way,
Hmm. Yeah.
unintentionally. And you know how men are when, they're just
As we heard in the book, this this is damn near a scene right out of the Bling book where Rihanna is sitting there looking a certain way, and Lamar is attracted to her, or Jay is attracted to her, but doesn't know how to say it.
stupid. So, he from what I heard, allegedly, he took the
Mhm.
bait on a couple things and played himself a little bit, like
Definitely played himself, but yes, much like Russell dating Kamora Lee Simmons, who ironically Erica Kenny was best friends with.
okay,
How do you play
so like
himself?
just acting weird, especially that the fact that she wasn't 17 yet. I wasn't there, but this is what I heard from being there.
You literally heard it out of his mouth. Literally heard it. Jay was acting weird around her before the girl was even 17. Was acting really weird with her. And it became a thing and rumor around the industry. So, was it really a rumor that he was cheating on Beyonce?
I never saw it. I just heard about it.
So,
You know,
disclaimer, he is now telling us things that he has heard. They have not been verified. He is not telling you to take this as fact. He's repeating stuff that you can probably find on the blogs. Now, that said, what did you hear? What have you heard?
so so I heard, that he like, made a shot with her, whatever. He was feeling her, he was into her.
Hmm.
And she wasn't about it. I think she thought he was gross. He was an old guy, He was like she was 16, where other girls they threw themselves at him, like once again, only hearing the rumors. Him and Foxy Brown supposedly had a relationship when she was younger. Tierra
Hmm.
Marie, he slept with a lot of his artists. But he it's not that shouldn't be surprising because Jay-Z in 2004 is a gangster rapper who's constantly talking about sleeping with all women and talking
Hmm.
sexualizing women and disrespecting the women. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
It's not a surprise considering we went through literally his entire black book of the women that he's had rumored relations with. From Blue Cantrell, who got poisoned, to Tierra Marie's career being diminished, to Rita Ora, who literally in her interview witnessed a actual fight or tit for tat between Beyonce and Jay, to where how the story went. Make a long story short, Rita was at a reception party and noticed that Beyonce grabbed someone and kissed a man right in front of Jay. And it was more of a what you can do it, I can do it too type of thing. That was what Rita Ora said out her own mouth. So it's not new that Jay has been cheating. Hell, Beyonce knows he's been cheating. She knows. That's just how their relationship has always been. But it's also leaked and trickled out into the business, is why it's a problem. And it's even more of a problem when you are grooming a young 16-year-old, because it's very evident that you groomed Beyonce.
Right? So but
No.
she didn't, she didn't use that she didn't fall for it.
So in the
Allegedly.
beginning, Okay, so when she was young, she didn't fall for it, but there were people were saying there was something inappropriate where one person looked like they were trying to shoot their shot, and the other person was just because this is what I always feel. At 16, somebody 30 to me looked like they were ready for the retirement home. Like when you're
Right.
16, right? Your
Yeah.
mom's friends
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
so gross and old. It's just something of being 16. So I guess she felt
Right.
the same way about being grown. And she was a very quiet, demure 16-year-old as
So crazy that word demure, but yeah, King like Foxy Brown, hell Nas baby mother, but for him to be doing that, it sounds very similar in the book to where he's shooting his shot, saying, "Oh, your best friend would have gave head to me at the moment's notice if she had the opportunity on the table like you do." Little shit like that, little flirtatious shit like that is what he's getting at. Jay is shooting his shot, trying to slut her out early and groupie her out early for her to get a star deal.
well.
Correct. You know, and she was just happy to be over in the States. Get a record deal. Blah 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 blah. So when Ponde Replay comes out, when we start bringing out the announcement, MTV told me that they wanted a quote, just a quote from Jay-Z.
Okay.
Like a quote, like, I feel Rihanna is this and that, blah, 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 blah. And I told MTV at the time, like, of course we'll get a quote. I'll get you a quote. We'll have it tomorrow. And for them, for us getting a quote, that was going to put Ponde Replay in MTV News, and they would give our video a consideration. So that was a big deal. So I was like, this is game over. We can break right now. All I need is a quote from Jay-Z. So I was
Mhm.
reaching out to Jay-Z for a quote. He wouldn't give a quote. Rihanna's other people reaching out for a quote. He was just ignoring it, like stonewalling, which I hate. So
Mhm.
he wouldn't give us a quote. But Jennifer Vineyard, she was the person who worked at MTV. She went ahead and gave us a news item, anyways. I was like embarrassed. I was like, I don't even know what I said. I don't even think I followed up with her because I was just so embarrassed. But she was like, "Hey, I put Rihanna on MTV News. It's just a little, news item.
Mhm.
So once we had that, we took that and we tried to get more press and do more things. But we were excited because it was like game on. And Jay-Z just wouldn't help. There wasn't social media. MySpace was a thing at the time.
Mhm.
MySpace was, the thing that was popping. So it was very politics. So radio was owned by the same people. So it was very hard. Like nowadays, it's easy to get in, easier. You know,
That's so weird. Like he was in Rihanna's face, but when it came to actually publicly doing anything to help her
of
career
course,
along, he would not give a statement at all.
for sure.
Was she signed to the label at that point?
She was signed through the production team.
Okay, so he had motivation also. It's not like
Which I think was Republic at the time. I think it was Republic that she was assigned to at first. She wasn't necessarily through Def Jam yet. Not even when Ponder Replay first came out. She was not with Def Jam just yet. That I know for sure. So that even took a while for her to even get the Rock Nation shit and all that as well. So, but yeah, what he's saying is very true. And it just sounds like he was pretty much not giving her those extra incentives to also hide the fact that what he was doing was wrong in the behind the scenes, I should say. If you're dating that star, right, and you know she's underage, as well as you know that you have to keep this low key and under wraps, the last thing you want to do is give her a cosign. Because we saw how that happened with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, did we not? Bill Clinton got her a raise, and everybody went ballistic and said, "Oh, she only got that from sucking dick." So I can understand why Jay said, you ain't getting no word from me that easy, because then it's gonna make it look like something."
this is just somebody that's
He
not
did.
even attached. Yeah, it's like his
He
monies
did.
would have been. So I heard
Yeah.
about around so I heard about around that time, like one of the reasons why he didn't want to come forward and give a statement and draw attention to that is because one, like you said, at that point, nobody knew that she was going to have Umbrella and that other and go on to Auntie. It just seemed like, okay, she might have a few songs. Maybe this album will do okay. And like you said, nobody was really looking at like legend or icon status. But one of the reasons why he was hesitant to give a quote is because Beyonce kind of like he didn't want to step on her toes in any way.
Correct. And they were new. Their relation, him and Beyonce's relationship was new. He
Hmm.
was a dog then. He's admitted in his songs. Like she
Yeah.
admitted on their Lemonade campaign.
Hmm.
So I mean that's he was cheating. But so anyways, after she blew up,
Okay.
after Pondy replay like came out, it was lighting up radio. Then he was willing to support. Then he was willing to do, whatever it took. And that's
Hmm.
that's why we did that's why we did the rumor because, like I said, there was no money. There was no money to promote it to radio. We didn't have anything. So like
Hmm.
everybody believed in her. So it was like desperation. Okay, what do we do now? This is war. If he's not gonna give a quote, we're going to force him to give him a quote. We're going to force his hand here because we all believed in the record.
And not only believing in the record as much as you believe in the rumor too, because if you're thinking about it, that that rumor had a lot more truth to it than anything of Jay sleeping with Rihanna, cheating on Beyonce. That rumor had more truth to it than falseness. So that's really what Jonathan's getting at. It's like, yeah, I started a rumor, but the rumor was based upon actual facts in the industry.
And so that's why he brought out that stuff, like FJZ, this is what it is.
Hmm. I mean, it's a little
Because
grimy, but
all he had, it is grimy. It is grimy for sure, but when you have a client like that and you have a song like that, by any means necessary. You do it ever you have to do. It's like David versus Goliath. We had our little rock that we're firing, and trying to land something to get her to go. So I would, at that point in my life, I would do whatever it took for my client, whatever it took. And I believed in her. So I would go the distance, you know,
if
and it,
listen, if
and
y'all
it
looking for
worked.
a publicist, that's what y'all want. You want somebody
No,
you're
it
just like,
worked.
oh,
It
we're gonna
worked.
make
It
this
worked.
happen. Yeah.
No, I listen. As I'm older and like I don't do, I always think the old me, the young me. What would he do? I don't. I'm way
Hmm.
too conservative now. I'd never do anything like that. I'm part of the
Yeah.
system. I'm part of the politics now. I've
Well,
sold out.
listen,
I've
you've
sold out.
built yeah, you built your own kingdom. So now it's like you said, you don't have to do those young and scrappy things. You actually,
Yeah,
you have other avenues. So here's the thing. So after Pond the Replay and her first album, she had that huge hit with Umbrella. So I heard a lot of stuff on the street that around that time is when Jay-Z and Rihanna's relationship, for lack of a better word, evolved into what people commonly think it is now. What did you hear about that when Umbrella came out? She was really, really hot. And that's basically where Rihanna and Jay Z were pretty much inseparable. Have you heard anything about that time?
yeah. Because then that's when things started to happen. That's when he started to look at her different. That's when he started, to treat her different. You know.
Mm,
And
yeah.
he's a Sagittarius. He's a sweet guy. He's a nice guy. He brought that game, and it's like you look past that he was ugly. I mean, look, he pulled Beyonce. So older guys, like myself, we can't rely on our looks. We have to rely. He's funny. We have to rely on other stuff. We have to rely on money. So it's like, he did what he had to do.
Okay, so he started to look at her different and treat her different. Again, you guys, this is just what we've heard in the industry. Go do your own research, take it with a grain of salt. But around the Umbrella time when we saw them Umbrella, that's when things kind of evolved and he was definitely treating her differently, pouring on the charm. uh, doing whatever. Okay. Um, Around that time, there was a book that came out. I believe it came out in, um, uh, you know, around actually, slow down really quick. So around that time when Jay-Z was pouring on the charm, pouring in the money, they were inseparable. The nature of their relationship seemed to change for industry insiders. From the outside looking in, it's just like, oh wow, they're the best of friends.
She's about to mention that Bling book, by the way.
But there was a market shift, it seemed like, for people on the inside that noticed the nature of their relationship. What around then were your impressions of Jay-Z when him and Rihanna were rolling really hard?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're also missing a huge thing too that I forgot
Mm,
to put out. So like after the record broke, and after it's like going crazy, we thought that we won, and she got rid of like everybody. Like Jay-Z took her. She got new management. She got new staff. She was now the it girl. That her
mm,
independent team that she had that put all that stuff together. They were like, nah. We're bringing in, other people, right?
mm,
Um, but it was a win for us. So it's like after that, we got all kinds of other work, right? We were hot, we were relevant. So we're driving through Kissimmee, Florida, and that's when we got pulled over by the unmarked cars, and it was a federal task force, and they had us follow them to this outside of this library. It was like this weird, like abandoned building, and that's when they interrogated me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to jail for a rumor. And I was thinking about being in school, like I can't go to jail for a rumor. But I was like
mm,
tripping out. I was like, what am I doing here? Why are they interrogating me about this? And I was so nervous. And that's when I like told in that all hip hop statement that's when I knew that that's when I knew there was a real problem. And they started talking about the investigation they had with him and R. Kelly, with him and Lance on Rivera, with some of the other women, and they were trying to build a case for him. There's two reasons. That was 2004. He was a gangster rapper. He's an African American guy. They didn't, there was people that didn't want to see that happen. It was a much different climate than it is now.
Not necessarily that he was just some gangster rapper, and that's why they were targeting him. It was more so that's why I played the D Haven clip. It was more so that looking at they've been looking at Hove for quite some time. The same way they have been looking at Diddy for quite some time, they have been looking at Jay for quite some time now. So the investigation that happened with Jonathan Hay was to say, yo, what do you know about Jay Z grooming underage women? What do you know about Jay Z supposedly sex trafficking women? Again, this is the same guy that, was signed to Harvey Weinstein and was best friends at one point with Diddy. You start to ask yourself, okay, what is this guy doing next to these people that are involved in this? As well as, why do I keep hearing this name come up with these same allegations?
So
mhm,
he had a lot of people wanted to take Jay-Z out. Not only because of his ways, but because he was becoming too popular. He was becoming too big. So they were like really grilling me, really interrogating me hardcore, and I was like super super scared. But that's when I realized, okay, this is weird. This is weird. Like this isn't some. I've never had to deal with like the FBI, the task
yeah,
force. I've never had to deal with them. So they're not just going to do that for nothing. And he was getting in trouble. So that's when it started to hit me. And I was like, wow, this is really crazy. And then you look at Jay-Z, his partnerships with R. Kelly, his partnerships with Diddy, and his partnerships with Harvey Weinstein.
mhm,
Like that's when you look at it and you think, okay, there is something that needs to be looked at here. Like I don't know one person, besides being in the industry, I don't know anybody. Nobody are my friends that have been under investigation for sex trafficking and have went to prison for sex trafficking. Two
Mhm.
of Jay-Z's good friends, Harvey Weinstein and R. Kelly, are in prison for that. And there's going to be an indictment coming probably from Diddy at any moment. That's three people in his life who he has partnerships with. That's weird. That's really, really weird, you know?
It is
So,
really weird. Now, just a reminder, because we
anyways,
want to delve into that. For YouTube,
I'm
we
all over the
call it
place. I'm very sorry.
smack smack. For YouTube, we call it smack smacking. Don't want to get the censors on the live, but definitely feel what you're saying. Let's roll it back because for those of you guys who are just joining us, Jonathan actually said something that was so profound. Okay, it happened to him while he was driving along in Florida. If anybody knows about the way the feds roll up, am I going to like make it out mainstream? It's like, oh, okay, fine. But the more he started getting questioned and the more he saw stuff
Right.
happen, he's like, wait a second, there actually was something there. Really quick for people that don't know, what was the whole thing with Lance Riviera and Jay-Z? And also, what was the connection you think they were trying? Oh, that you
Real quick, because there was something else that he got into. Because we all know about the Jay Z and Rivera thing. We already know about that. But there was something else that he got into that let me know that this Rihanna thing is a little bit deeper than what people actually know. I'm gonna just play it from about right here.
Because I'm always aware of my surroundings. And, like I understand that it could, get weird, but it would be from more like a legal standpoint,
mhm.
with their lawyers and, stuff like that. It wouldn't be anything where I would be worried about like violence happening because he would be.
And just so you know, the only thing I skipped was him talking about the same thing he brought up on with Jaguar Wright, where he was pretty much kidnapped and his house got ran in and all that. And if something happened to him, of course, Jay Z or Drake would be the first people that they look at.
The first suspect.
Mm,
These are smart people, especially with all this stuff with Diddy. Like if something happened to me, he would be the first suspect,
yeah.
you know?
I
Especially
mean,
here I
that's
am
the
talking about all this wild, wild stuff, so, and then something happens to me, you know?
I mean, I will say
So,
that I
and
agree with you.
yeah. And that's something I want to tell you real quick. Like
Mm,
when, I put this, in like the statement I sent to you is that's one of the reasons I wanted to clear up this this rumor thing that's been going on for 20 years that keeps coming back and in documentaries and books and all this stuff. And like I said, I've always fallen on the sword. But like when I had a serious incident happen to me, I was in a home invasion. I was, pistol whooped and robbed and duct taped and, held hostage, and three people pled guilty and they all went to prison. During that moment, like after I went to the police brought up that rumor and they were like, well, you've been known to lie before because you lied, for this thing, 20 years ago. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like what the police, because they're just looking on the internet, it's just like, no, that's not at all what happened. And that's the entertainment world. This is real life. So, anyways, that really like, stressed me out because I was like, gosh, my work is affecting my personal life because something traumatic just really happened to me. And they're using that what I did for a marketing thing and what I did for anger, they're using that against me now,
mhm.
But anyways, that was clear and the the three people went to prison, But as far as my mental health is good. Your person who asked that, I appreciate you asking. Thank you so much for
Looking
worrying
out.
about that. Yeah, looking
No,
out.
not looking out, but like, people say, like, I am happy if something happens to me. But like you said, they say, I'm happy if something happened to me, nothing, because they like to say it was pneumonia, aneurysms, or whatever. But you make a good point. This would be a perfect time for a lot of people to speak out because there's eyes watching. If something happened to someone, it's just like you said, okay, let's go to Diddy and Jay Z's house because clearly, and you have the feds and the authorities actually looking and watching. Um, Do you know anything about the relationship with Clive Davis, Diddy, and Jay Z?
No, I know that Clive Davis had a relationship with Diddy, from the Bad Boy Records, but I don't know. Clive Davis, signed Whitney Houston.
Hmm.
Clive Davis was real involved with Whitney, was a close friend. Like when
Why
she
are they
passed
really
away,
close?
he signed her when she was young,
Hmm.
but you never heard about anything inappropriate with Clive Davis,
Hmm.
like, and her and stuff like that, but when she passed away, it was at the Hilton in Los Angeles at he was downstairs at the Clive Davis industry party. She died at like on the fourth floor of the hotel where he was having his industry party. She
Mm.
dies, he finds out about it, and he keeps the party going.
And you say they were close though, and he kept the party going after.
I mean, everybody know about that, but that was one of the main things. Like I said, everybody, you obviously did something. It happened at your industry party, right upstairs, right after she performed. Or should I say, the night that she was supposed to be performing? Like, it's not a coincidence. But he's about to get into something here where, if you guys remember, I'm just gonna say Becky with the good hair was not Becky with the good hair. I'm gonna let it play.
His good friend passed away
Man,
upstairs.
it's so wicked. It's like because he saw her as what she was then, as like the drug addict who's not selling records, who's not people aren't going to their
Oh.
tour, they're making fun of her look, like he wasn't he wasn't she wasn't an earner for him. The industry's so shady. Like that's
Hmm.
so shady. He just kept the party moving. Like, all right, next. That's why they played my girl, Nippy. That's what they call Whitney Houston. They played her. They kicked her out. And then after she dies, she becomes iconic. And then the industry loves her again. And then,
Mm.
she's an icon. She's a legend. Man, just last week you were calling her a crackhead.
Hmm. And
Like
then a
that's
few
not
weeks
right.
later, yeah, definitely not. Okay, so that actually, so but Clive Davis, like you said, it's something with the industry that's wicked. It's like even people that'll like be your mentors and your friends, they could just act like next as soon as something happens to you because you're not an earner and you're not a
For sure.
commodity anymore. Let me ask you a question, and this is just what.
Correct.
Let's play. Have you heard? Okay. Have you heard anything about Jay Z having
All right,
other
let's go.
children? About a son,
Yes, I have.
maybe? What have you heard?
Yeah, definitely. That
You think that there's
and
well,
a
you've
daughter.
heard
There
that
was
there's
like,
mm,
yeah, no, I don't think so.
but you don't think so.
I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
Mm-mm.
Why?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like that kid that you're talking about looks exactly like him. I don't
You notice how he really doesn't even want to mention it for the simple fact that he feels like something could happen to him if he was to mention the truth with this.
know. I try not to pay attention, to stuff
Mm,
like that. I have no idea.
okay.
I don't know though.
All right. Well, listen. If you don't
Because
know, you don't know.
he seems to be a good father to his other children.
I agree with you about
I don't
that.
know. So
That's the
I don't
only
know.
thing that makes me doubt it because I find that people that are horrible parents are horrible parents to all the children, you know? So it's
Across
like,
the board. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, across the board. What about the Jay-Z? What was your impression of the Jay-Z Solange incident in the elevator?
So I was actually contacted by Billboard. There's like an article from 2015, where I spoke out about it because once again, they said that fight was about the rumor about Rihanna because she had seen Rihanna, and that started the whole fight. And Solange went at Beyonce, because of the Rihanna stuff.
Oh, really?
So I had an
And
interview
Billboard
with
connect.
Billboard. Like, there's a link. I'll send it to you.
So what we saw, even though we saw Solange beating up on Jay, it seemed like it was more of a thing where Solange was trying to really. I mean, in the camera footage, Beyonce was just right there next to Solange. So it wasn't like Solange was trying to lunge at B. But there definitely was a one sided situation there to where you clearly saw Solange was upset and raging at something, and everybody thought it was Becky with the good hair. And what Jonathan Hay is saying is actually it was supposedly because Beyonce got reminded of that rumor when she saw Rihanna. And of course, you think about it, oh, ain't no bad blood since then or whatever. They've been hanging out, what this, that, and the third. Yeah. But there's still that jealousy factor there.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, Billboard contacted me about it, wanted me to go on record, and talking about the rumor and that did it have anything to do with the elevator. Like I've been dealing with this for so long, but I'm always like, oh yeah, it was reckless. We were, just desperate. We wanted to hit. Nobody knew
Mm,
anything. I was like rogue. I like made this publicity stunt up by myself. Nobody
mm.
else was involved. It was just me. I made up the rumor. Like, what? That's come on, that's not true. I
Well,
was just doing what a publicist is supposed to do, protecting the client.
okay, so we got that. Definitely, you were doing what a good publicist is supposed to do. But since we don't have the article in front of us, what statement did you give Billboard about what happened in the elevator?
I forgot. I told him I didn't think it was related, but I think everything is calculated.
Mm,
I would have did the same thing for the simple fact that you've already been harassed by police, harassed by the feds, I should say. You've been kidnapped. You've had home invasions happen. At this point, I understand why Jonathan Hay, even at certain questions, especially that, he chooses to say, no, I'm not answering that right now. Because there are much, much bigger. The rabbit hole goes deep. Everybody knows that when it comes to Jay. They said it was because he was flirting with Rachel. Yes, yeah. That's another thing, Sadate. So what Jonathan is saying basically is it was not over Becky with the good hair, and it was actually because Beyonce had saw Rihanna in the place, and she had gotten reminded by the rumor. I don't know which one to necessarily go with, but the Rihanna one sounds more believable than the Becky with the good hair one. Reason why it sounds more believable is because you have to put into play Rihanna being a billionaire. You have to put into play that Rihanna is not touring anymore. Rihanna is pretty much set with her money. She doesn't have to do anything but sell Fenty. Are we following here? Beyonce is now up to how many studio albums, including now a country album, and still can't get her ass off tour? Because she just has to keep going? Right? But then the one that your husband slept with and put all this equity into is a billionaire that doesn't have to sing a lick of lyrics anymore. If I was Beyonce, pause, I understand why my sister is swinging at you. Because you're Monica Lewinsky Rihanna and upgraded her. Whereas me just kept the working wife. So there's a lot of remorse there with that. There's a lot of remorse there. You can easily see why Beyonce would be jealous of a Rihanna. If we're thinking in terms of how young she is, how much more money she has than Beyonce, and you still slept with my husband to get all this. Or I should have said a good chunk of this in the beginning.